My name is Mel Lehman. Welcome to our program. I'm the director of Common Humanity. And Common Humanity is a peacemaking organization which seeks to build understanding, respect, and friendship between people in the Middle East and here in the States, in the West. We do that through art is one way. Behind us, you see some paintings, beautiful paintings from Gaza and Iraq, which with the pandemic beginning to end, we're a little bit thinking about maybe going out on the road and exhibiting this again. Not quite ready for that, but that's thinking of that. And we combine that with, on my left side, is a quilt from my Amish Mennonite American background. So we're visually trying to put these two together. And that's usually just more of a general statement, but today we have a very specific link to the quilt. My good cousin, that handsome man right there, is Eugene Sensenig, and he came originally from my home in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, where this quilt came from.
You did.
And we'll hear more about his growing up, and his wife, Dr. Rouba, is there beside them, and we're glad to have you both. Welcome to the Peace Channel.
Thank you.
Glad to be here.
And you're all the way via Zoom from Lebanon, which is really pretty amazing the way this technology works now.
It is
real time in Lebanon. Well, let's enough about me. Let's get to meet our guest. Dr. Rouba El-Helou and Dr. was born in the city of Byblos, which has a relationship to the alphabet and the Bible, as I recall, and is from the small village of Hasraya. She went to school in Amshit near Byblos and got her BA in English literature and master's in journalism from the Lebanese University. Rouba is now a political communication and gender lecturer in the Department of Government and International Relations of the Faculty in Law and Political Science at Notre Dame University. And I might note Notre Dame University in Beirut. She has developed, drafted, and designed several training manuals in addition to various publications. We'll hear about that more in a moment. And there to the right is my handsome cousin, Eugene. Eugene Richard Sensenig is a professor of international relations, gender, and global mobility studies in the Department of Government and International Relations in the Faculty of Law and Political Science, also at Notre Dame University in Beirut. He is the author of numerous publications, most recently, this intrigues me, we should have time to talk about this, make sure we can talk about this, The Christian Left and Social Justice in the Middle East. What a great title, what a great topic. Well, welcome to our program. We're eager to get to the pictures. How are you doing today all the way across the sea there across the Mediterranean in Beirut?
Well, we're fine.
Under the circumstances, I always say when people ask, how are you? Like Kifak, I can't say, don't make me a liar. The circumstances are horrible, but under the circumstances, we're doing great.
Great. Okay, I think we're going to see some of your town in a moment. So let's go to screen share, and we have some great photos. We're going to talk about some photos, and then we're going to talk about the topic we promised, the theological topics. But first, let's do some travel journalism here and get to visit hang on a second here.
Yeah.
Hang on a moment here. It was all ready a moment ago. I'm so sorry. It was ready a moment ago. Give me a second here.
I think you're going to start with Pennsylvania.
Yes, but
I'll talk. I know the order, so I'll just talk a little bit while you're.
Go ahead. While I try to.
We're going to start with Chambersburg in Pennsylvania, which is another Mennonite area of Pennsylvania near Lancaster County, and then we're going to see my late mother who died recently. Family picture. And we get to see your Kairos, USA. Yeah, so we'll start a little bit with the Mennonite background, and then we're going to move on to the Maronite background. That's the topic of today's intervention.
Okay. Now, are you now seeing a family portrait here?
We're seeing your
The
photo
entire
gallery.
gallery.
We're seeing the photo gallery.
Yeah. You need to click on it.
You need to click on it. Yeah. This is a picture of 5 generations.
Yes.
Exactly. Here we go.
Okay, great. Okay, I'm not sure why it took a little longer this time, but
Yeah.
here we go.
Maybe because
Okay,
you're
the-
linked to Lebanon today. It's
Yeah.
very slow in Lebanon. In fact, it's
The picture of the young man,
Below.
that's me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
This is
you can-
5 generations in Pennsylvania. As you said, we have a common Amish Mennonite background. I'm glad you put it that way. These are all the firstborn of each generation, from my great-great-grandmother, who's 99 in this picture, to myself, who's 8 months. And
wow.
also to show you the old order Mennonite background, which is very similar to the Amish. And so for me, growing up in Lancaster County and seeing women whose head were covered and who wore these conservative clothing, it was no surprise to me when I moved to Austria and had a lot of interaction with Muslims, because it was the same experience.
Exactly. Well, we have more to talk about the Mennonite, Amish, Anabaptist background.
Exactly.
You can now see a picture of your mom.
That's my mother who died recently of cancer in February, and my family, my siblings and their spouses. Obviously, Rouba standing beside me. This is in 2016 when we went over right after we got married.
Wow. And this is my family as well. I grew up with these folks. So this is so great to have you both here, and so great to meet Rouba and have you with us.
Thank you.
Rouba's introduction to Lancaster County. Now you can take it from here. This is your hood.
This is our neighborhood. This is where we live. And this is a picture taken from our balcony. As you can see, the sea here. This is where Byblos, this is where you were saying the alphabet. I would say this is where the alphabet was coded by the Phoenicians, and it has been inhabited since 7,000 years old, as they say. And as you can see, the urbanism in the area is not as great, because after the war, the chaotic urbanism spread all over the country, so you don't have this kind of structure that you might find in Europe anymore, or in the US.
Next.
Here's a rainbow of hope over Byblos.
Yes, yes. This rainbow actually, if behind it, it's Beirut. So from this side, this is Beirut and the Beirut port, where recently we had
the blast.
So we can see it from here, from our balcony. And we thought that this could be a picture that, it symbolizes hope for the future.
Great. Yeah. And one more picture from Byblos of the Mediterranean again.
Yeah, this is the sunset. You can see, Eugene is always amazed whenever basically on daily basis, I would call him around sunset and tell him, come and see this, and he's always amazed. Yeah. I was always raised, by the sea, so this is something that it's common for me to see each day. For Eugene to see this, and then seeing how, you can see how the nature is preparing for rain and everything. You can see it when you're living by the coast, and this is something that, these are, our daily scenes.
Growing up in Lancaster County, you're not used to seeing the ocean on a daily basis, as you know.
That's right. I once heard the Mediterranean described as the original internet. I always thought that was really great.
Yeah, that's a good one. Okay.
And here we are in
Israel.
Pictures. Yeah.
Well, you explain who this is.
This is my hometown. This is the place. The statue represents my great uncle. I never met him, obviously. He was assassinated in 1959. He was a freedom fighter, and he was a political leader. And he was summoned one night to Damascus and was killed and brutalized. And they were never able to find his body. All of this happened because, one, he's a freedom fighter, and he refused to change his mind just because they wanted him to change, and he kept his principles, and it led to his death. Though he was a great figure, and he was very intellectual. He had books. He's written a lot of books. And behind the statue, that's his house. This is where he was born. The link is that at the age of 6, Farajallah's mother left to the US and she never came back, and he lived all of his life hoping that one day he can be reunited with his mother until his death in 1959.
And the next picture, this statue was actually set up in '74, as you can see, by the Soviet Union. He was a well-known leftist, And Fajal El-Helou today throughout the Arab world is known for his martyrdom for the cause of the left in the Arab world.
Wow.
You can see the crack on the top left of the picture. This crack happened because during the war, during the Civil War, this statue actually was two. It was him with a comrade that he's holding hand and he's taking care of the people that they were around him. But because of during the war, they did not like the perception and the political background where he's coming from. So the entire area was bombed and the statue was totally damaged. The other statue was damaged. They were able to actually fix this one. And it was also put back where it is now in 2004.
Next.
And what a great photo. There we are.
I don't think I need to explain what this is. This is us getting married, and a lot of friends from our church, from the university, all over the place. My beautiful wife, family. Yes. So that's also part of the Middle East, is getting married in a church.
It's a Maronite church.
Maronite church. Yes, it's a Maronite marriage, which means it's forever.
Okay. And I was so eager to get to the Mennonite, as soon as you started, I thought a Mennonite church in Lebanon, no, Maronite church. I'm eager to get to that, very eager to get to that. And here is wonderful photo of the couple by the sea.
Yeah, by the ocean. Just a nice view. Okay, next.
Ah, here we are.
This is, I'm an animal lover, and if you see in the back, it says the true story of the English patient. That's some of my Austrian background. We did a book of all of the writings of Lazil Almashi, who is the English patient in the novel and in the film. He's a real person. So I have a strong background in Central European Orientalist literature. And this is my cat, Tigres. At this moment on the desk, where she's standing right now, she was 18. She lived in my office for 18 years, or 19 years actually. Wow. She died last year. So this is my university, Notre Dame University.
I'm a cat lover as well, yeah.
Yes.
Here is some German and some English. At the top is your German university.
The reason we picked this picture, it's because of Friedrich Naumann Foundation, Friedrich Naumann Stiftung. We met in Germany, and this is how we started together. And it was something at that time, we're talking about 2015, it was an amazing encounter for both of us. Like, we did not expect that we will end together after being together for 2 weeks on an excursion.
Right. We worked together at the same university. At the time, she was in the Media Studies and Communications department, and I was in Political Science and Law. So we knew of each other, but we didn't know each other until we met in Germany, of all places. And it was like being snowed in for 2 weeks. And after that, the rest is history.
And what a wonderful history. I'm so happy to have you both here. This is a book published by, well, tell me about this picture. Yeah.
No, I think Eugene picked this picture. This were my students were highlighting this. This is our dean, Dr. Sidor Mansour. She is Lebanese American. She lives in the U.S.
She's your neighbor.
She's your neighbor practically in New York.
In Manhattan.
And this is one of the events that we did just before Lebanon collapsed totally, where Lebanon is still actually a hub for organizations to come. It was a big organizational meeting from 35 different organizations working on women's rights, supporting women's issues all over the world, and they met in Beirut. That was in 2019, end of 2019. And we had this kind of meeting to have, strategize for the next coming 5 years, and everything, collapsed later on because of what happened.
And just to show you how important the role of women and the promotion of women's rights and gender equality in Lebanon, it's a very big topic. And we have a dean who's a woman, which is not always the case, even in the US. And so she's a good friend of ours as well. Okay.
And this is so helpful to have you here, because we don't see this in the States. We see images of women covered and so forth. And it's so great to have you. And here's the professor, the professor. Yeah.
You cropped this obviously a little bit. It's the same background as you see now. This is the book an article that I wrote on Rouba Place Fellowship. This is a Mennonite, Anabaptist, Amish, today we would call it a intentional community in Evanston, which is a suburb of Chicago. And I grew up basically in a Mennonite commune. in the 50s and 60s. So I have that background in me as well. So that was just to show you this background.
That's great. And the book is in Arabic? Am I reading Arabic?
No, it's in English.
In English, okay.
But published in Slovenian.
And here we are, it's back in Europe.
Yes, this is
This
when Rouba discovered the radical Reformation, and this is an exhibit for Thomas Muntze, who was not that peaceful, obviously, but this was during the 2017 quincentennial 500th anniversary of the Protestant Reformation, the magisterial church-state Protestant Reformation. There'll be another one in 2025 for the Radical Reformation, but Rouba discovered Thomas Muntze here, and she was very shocked because she was a big fan of Martin Luther, but when she discovered what Martin Luther did to Thomas Muntze, she was quite shocked.
Yeah, that's it was not an easy time.
No.
As we can see by the canon, a closer view there was
Yes.
a lot of violence,
Yes.
religious persecution 500 years ago.
This is just to make the point, because this would be very typical of the situation in the Middle East, and it's difficult to explain the Anabaptist Mennonite pacifist tradition, the nonviolent resistance. But passive and pacifist are not the same thing. We are definitely not passive. We are very proactive, but the roots of Anabaptist pacifism. And it was very nice to be able to take her there. And this is literally about half an hour from where she's working on her PhD in Erfurt.
The idea that day was that we had a lot of peasant war in the region, and the inception of Lebanon, people say, was the beginning of a peasant war in the 19th century, and I was linking both together.
Yeah, the two peasant wars.
Yeah.
It was amazing to discover all this.
Okay, now we're moving to another Thawra or revolution. This is Rouba's mother. I don't know who the other two people are in the picture. Out burning tires during the revolution. Actually, we didn't burn them. We just put ourselves there when the other people.
We don't support burning tires.
But the highway was blocked for several weeks, and this is against two things: the massive systemic corruption in Lebanon, and the sectarianism, trying to force everything through this lens of religious divisions. So this revolution in the end of 2019, the beginning of 2020, failed. It was one of those many revolutions which did not succeed. It was a very late end of the Arab Spring, if you will, but we were active in this, and it was a huge disappointment, and we can talk about that after we're done with the slideshow.
Yeah. These are Americans in Beirut?
This is actually in the Bekaa in Zachle, and we are from the Democrats abroad and the Republicans overseas, together with the American Embassy, drumming up support to vote. This is actually 2016. Didn't turn out the way we had hoped, because I'm the head of the Democrats abroad here in Lebanon, and the Republicans overseas were quite happy, obviously, back then. Just to show that we're also very active, and here you can see Rouba as well getting active in American politics.
Interesting, very interesting. And this is what?
This is a meeting that was held end of this year, end of the 2020. Actually.
You can tell we're all in masks.
In December 2020, and we were still, you can tell that it's after the pandemic. And this is a meeting that was held in the parliament, where two committees, Women and Children Committees and the SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals Committee in Lebanon. Those are parliamentarians from Lebanon. Those are the same parliamentarians that we were, protesting against last year in October 2019, and it failed. Eugene and I did a study on the role of women and gender in oil and gas sector in Lebanon, because we have started the drilling to discover if we have or we don't have. But in the process, we thought that it's good to have something prepared about the good governance, because the good governance from perspective of transparency, diversity management doesn't exist that much in Lebanon. And the study was well received by the parliament, and we presented it.
Okay, it's just a little bit. It's a little bit of the give unto Caesar that which is Caesar's, and the give unto God that which is God's. So we're out there demonstrating against the power elite, but in the end, you have to work with Caesar as well. So, and this is a very important topic, the oil and gas topic, because it's something that is related to massive corruption. It's called the resource curse, how natural resources actually make corrupt countries much worse. So you explain this is yours.
Okay. This was a training that we did back in 2017 on campus for professors and for students at the same time, how to use Wikipedia in promoting your own content in your syllabus. And people have this idea that Wikipedia is not a good source, that people should not go there. The trainer showed the people there who participated that no, it's as hard as any other field, that you need to edit, you need to work on this. And the idea was to link between both, between students and staff and professors at the same time.
And activists.
And activists. And at that day, it was in particular because we cooked for the speaker. So each one of us had to prepare a meal, and at the end we were sharing meals together. And you can see how we interact with our students.
Also, maybe something you don't expect to see of an Arab university. It looks very American, I would assume.
Exactly. We are learning so much that of our common humanity, as I like to put it. The folks in the Middle East, we see different images than this in our media, and here we're seeing that folks there. And a very
look at the girl in the middle who's laughing.
Yeah.
The next picture. There she is again. We sent her off. She's almost like a daughter to us. We sent her off to Salzburg, and she's now studying in Austria, getting her master's degree on comparing the Middle East to the Balkan states, the difference between the Balkan conflict and the Middle Eastern conflict. So we're also trying, this is a little bit of the bridge between Europe and the Middle East, and showing how my hometown of Salzburg is where she's studying. And I believe that's it.
And if someone would ask, what are we drinking? The drinks, this is our also arak, which is our alcohol.
Yeah, arak is the specialty of the Middle East.
Yeah.
And I've heard that some Muslims drink it as well.
Oh,
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Who would know? Who would know?
No.
Well, we have so many rich topics to go into. We are learning such fundamental things as there are Christians in the Middle East, a vital part, which not everyone is familiar with that topic. We're learning that women's issues are so important. Good government is needed. Our topic at the moment, we have a unique opportunity to talk about a Maronite-Mennonite dialogue, but let's go straight to that. On our left is a Maronite, Rouba, and on our right is a Mennonite. Let's establish the basics. The Maronite, and I'll stop in a moment, but correct me. A Maronite is one of 7 Uniat churches in the Middle East that are in communion theologically with Rome, but have kept their traditions. And in the right is my cousin Eugene, who is a Mennonite, which is a descendant of the radical Reformation in the Middle East. We've hung on, we were persecuted, but we've held on
Central Europe
100 years for our pacifism and our activism. So enough for me. How's the Maronite dialogue going in Lebanon at the moment?
How is it going?
Well, apart from the confusion over the name, which sounds almost the same, and so we can tell 100 stories of Maronite-Mennonite, on both sides of the Atlantic, by the way. But I would say that this is one of the reasons why it was so important for me to show Rouba the Mühlhausen, where the peasant wars actually ended, where Münster was defeated, and to show the tension out of which our revolution, our radical Reformation came, which was a peaceful revolution, and the revolution of Christ was against the use of force. But it wasn't without its detractors, and many of the supporters of the radical Reformation were the so-called swords faction, which wanted to use violence to reform the church, and we were the staff faction, who ultimately won because the sword faction was eradicated physically, like Munster, they were killed. So that we were left over by default. So the Anabaptist movement did not win because we had better arguments, but because our adversaries were wiped out physically. But we're still around, and we'll be celebrating our 500th anniversary on 2025. And I'm hoping that our mission and our trajectory will have play some role in the Middle East, and I'm hoping it'll play some role in the US, by the way. I've had a long time trying to explain it to her. I think to Rouba, I think going to Mühlhausen, going to Erfurt made it clearer in many ways. And maybe you can respond.
Well, at the beginning, I was thinking that maybe we need something like this, a reform in our Middle Eastern church. But after I saw what happened, and I went to the place or where everything is happening, and we're walking in the streets, and I'm imagining this is happening 500 years ago, I said to myself, maybe we don't want this trajectory. Maybe we can find some other peaceful solutions. We don't have to go into this really bloody, bloodshed, I don't know, huge division. Because I have to say it as it is. When I got married to Eugene, many people were asking me, is he a real Christian? Because, for us, Middle Eastern, we always think of the West. Are they real Christians? And I'm sure that the West is always looking at us. Are they real Christians? And these were a debate that we had to go through because Eugene insisted on getting married in my church. So it was something that, I had to discover for 5 years, and I'm still discovering up until today. What are the similarities? And the similarities are actually stronger because we are rooted in the end as humans in justice and social justice, and finding what is, good for the other, and finding, common good for the other. And Lebanese are like this too. And I think most of the Arab world people are like this too. But, the portrayals that we have about us, that we are barbaric, we are people who believe in killing and so forth. But living in the Middle East, people will know that it's not true. That they are actually, even Muslims and Christians, they do not differ from each other from this perspective. And maybe you've lived in the Arab world and you understand how people are. They're not that different. And you see the similarities. When I look at Eugene's pictures, the one that you showed, the first one, it reminds me of my grandmother. She used to wear the same clothes in the Middle East. The same kind of textile, the same kind of, everything is the same. What's different? The difference is a little bit maybe transparency from one end, good governance from the other, and these are questions that we want to know. Why we cannot govern ourselves? Why is this happening? These are the questions, the core questions.
Mm-hmm. And as you are a couple together, what have you learned in this dialogue that you would be a takeaway that we might take from this? What is something that you've learned being married about the Middle East Maronites and the West European Mennonites that you didn't know before you got married about this connection?
Well, I had, obviously, having studied the Middle East, was much more aware of her background than she was of mine. So for her, there was a much stronger learning curve. I know with the first time she came to Lancaster County, and we were driving into, we hit Lancaster County and the sun was going down. And all of a sudden we got into this area where there was a lot of Amish and old order Mennonites. And as the sun went down, the lights didn't go on. Mm. She goes, oh my God, this is spooky. You're like, where is everybody? So she was like completely shocked by the fact that there are people who don't have electricity, who go around in horses and buggies and this kind of thing. So by choice. So it wasn't just the theological differences, but also the lifestyle differences. So I mean,
it's also about the portrayals that we have about Amish, because when I say my husband is Mennonite Amish, people immediately think. They ask me weird questions about how many wives they have, these kind of questions.
They confuse it with Mormons.
Yeah, and also the media portrayals. So it's also was something, important for me to see it, yeah. and to have this experience was something like, I live in a country where you don't have electricity, but it's not by choice. Right. So going to see people want to have this choice was something.
Like one of the things that I'm very grateful for is teaching at a Christian institution. Notre Dame University is a Maronite Catholic university. The good thing about that is that talking about your faith in class, talking about religion and politics is not an issue. It's something actually we're encouraged to do.
Right.
And so coming from my Anabaptist Mennonite social justice, peace and freedom background, and from Austria, where I had been very strong in working with my fellow believers with Catholic social teaching. Right. And what I discovered here was the Orthodox social thought, which was from the Eastern Orthodox Christian Church. So we have these three strands. In the US, they're probably more familiar with the social gospel. So if we take those three strands of Christian social justice traditions, we've been working on that for 20 years. And that I would say was one of the things that made me feel at home, that we can focus on issues like just governance, equality for gender equality, preserving God's creation care from a theological perspective. So, and here, I mean, my colleagues at NDU, they were like, this is wonderful. They said, well, who's this guy from the West talking about religion and politics? We're not used to this.
Well, it's so great to have you here. And we have a Q&A. We're pushing towards the end of our half hour. We're not in a rush, but we do want to get a general idea of keeping to our half hour. We have so much to talk about. We have a question and answer. If someone would like to send in a question, Sama simply notes, thanks for having this program and allowing Sama to be a guest. Any other questions you'd like to send in before we begin wrapping things up? One question we have for all of our guests is, what can we do for peace? You have taken us to Beirut, you've taken us to Europe, a lot of ground covered. What can we do for peace right here and right now as we watch our program? And as we end and we go on, what can we individually do for peace?
Well, for me, as a Mennonite who grew up in Chicago, I was born at Eastern Mennonite College at the time in Harrisonburg, Virginia. Then I went to a Mennonite commune in Evanston. Then I went to the heartland of Lancaster County of the Mennonites. And then I went to Goshen College. So I had the whole thing. Is that I'm very distressed by the fact that a lot of our fellow Mennonites are now supporting some pretty right-wing ideas. That's not my problem. My problem is, how do we who do not agree with them deal with our friends and family with love, with peace?
Yeah.
I find a lot of hate on both sides, on the left and the right.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say, as a Christian, that's one of our goals, is to love our adversaries, even when they're our family members. And so that's one of the things I think that we have to work on, as Gandhi said, be the change you want to see in the world, is to work within the church for peace. Because the church, like the US, is very split right now.
Yeah.
And they see each other as enemies. It's more like they'll know we're Christians by our hate, instead of by our love.
Yeah.
So bringing love back to the church, I would say, was a very important first step. And second of all, thinking about the impact of your decisions in the United States for the Middle East. I mean, now we have a new administration, and we're really hoping that the US be more even-handed as far as the Middle East is concerned.
Right. Rouba, anything we missed that we could get from you yet before we go?
Yeah, from my side, I would say what Eugene said about the division that we have all over the world are the same divisions that we have in the Middle East, and Lebanon is part of it. The division that we have, that people, even from the same denomination, they're fighting each other and they're hating each other. We went the past 2 days because it was the end of Lent, it was Good Friday, so we have a tradition that would like to go and visit churches. We can on Thursday, and then on Friday we went and saw a friend of mine who she has a mini operation where she takes care of like 35 families. 35 families that she had 10 years ago, they now became 350 plus families to be able to take care of them. And I think injustice is something that is very important, that this idea of division and injustice where people are not getting enough to live the way they should be living, is also, it can create all kind of, inequalities and war and so forth. So I would say also social justice is key, that we are all equal. And this is something important in addition to what Eugene said.
We had a question come in from Doug. Doug says, I just wanted to thank you for your excellent presentation. Thank you, Eugene. Thank you, Rouba. That's high praise indeed. Doug's question is, I had heard that some of the Lebanese Christians aligned with Israel in one of the occupations of Lebanon. When that's back in, what was it, 1982, way back there.
During the occupation,
there was some, the Israelis invaded, which I think by all accounts was just a crazy mistake. What would be the position of the Christians? What happened there with the Christian community?
Yeah, well, the idea is that not all Christians did this, only the fighting factions did this. It was not aligned also with the population, and this is also what the West would see, that the Christians are aligning with the Israelis, and it's the opposite. It's not. It was a political decision back then. This is the only way to fight the Palestinians who were in Lebanon. So the only way is to go and align with the Israelis. So let's do it. So this is what happened. But it's not that all the Christians, and there were Christian fighting militias. So it's not the entire country. That one. It doesn't mean that that you don't have people who are saying, and we prefer the Israelis if we can have peace. But these are political discussions. I don't know what what kind of discussions you find in the media, but I know that it is not all Christians who are like this.
Yeah, there were Christians and Muslims on both sides.
Right.
And there were also Palestinians on both sides, by the way. So this is one of the messy issues of Lebanon, is that you cannot define things by sectarian, by religious divisions along religious
It's
lines.
political interest.
It's political, and in the end, it's about money.
Yeah. So if there's a takeaway here, if it's several takeaways, but one basic takeaway is that it's more nuanced. We Americans have to see the nuances, the complications, the variety of humanity of the Middle East, and reject those stereotypes that are so common in our media, in our movies. And so thank you both for helping us to do that.
Thank you very much for having us.
Pushing towards the end of our half hour, you had mentioned as we got started that you're thinking about moving to the States. Anything you'd care to share about that as academics?
Well, basically everybody in Lebanon is thinking about moving out of the country at the moment, because it's like we have the four horsemen of the apocalypse. We have war, revolution, pandemics, and state failure all in one. So I'm reaching the end of my career, so we're both thinking about moving either to Germany or to the US. So if anybody wants to hire an excellent communications professor and myself, we're up for grabs. But yes, it's dire. It's I've been here for 21 years. I've never seen it so bad. Everybody's trying to get out of Dodge when they can, but at the moment, we're trying to survive, keep our head above water.
Yeah.
But yes, in the end, everybody's considering leaving.
Unfortunately, yes.
Yes, which is not a good thing.
Yeah. Well, folks that would like to get in touch with Eugene and Dr. Eugene and Dr. can email Common Humanity. Dr. Rouba, we will be glad to forward the message. So if you want to get in touch with them, anyone, academics or other questions, please contact us. Speaking of Common Humanity, we broadcast these programs every 2 weeks, the first and third Saturday. 2 weeks, we have an especially interesting program. We're going to be reading Rumi together. We have a man, just as today, we have a man and woman from Lebanon. We're going to have also professors, a man and woman professors from Tehran. And we're each going to be looking at a poem by Rumi, the beloved, famous Persian Iranian poet. And we're going to be reading Rumi together. We'll hear what they have to say over in that part of the world on their own poet, so to speak. And we're going to be offering some insights here on this part. If you go to our website, commonhumanity.org, you will see we have posters for sale. We have blank note cards for sale, all of which help to support us, all of which we need some support. Thank you for any contributions you would like to make to Common Humanity. The computer, the Wi-Fi, the Zoom, all of this takes some funding, and we would be very grateful. One other special note is if you go to our homepage, commonhumanity.org, at the top, you will see Zoom Peace webinars. One of the artists we work with Iraqi artists, one of the artists who survived the bombing of Iraq in Baghdad with her children. She and I are going to be offering a webinar, which is going to be talking about peace, and the news today here in the States, so full of bombings and people shooting each other. Lubna and I would like to visit you via Zoom and talk about what it's actually like to be a victim of violence in Baghdad and some ways we can work for peace. Well, we are so grateful to have you. This happens to be Holy Saturday. We thought we would just go ahead and do this because working for peace seems to me to be such a good idea to do on Holy Saturday. So thank you all. I hope your travels bring you to New York soon. I would love to see you in the Middle East. Thank you. God bless you. I wish you a joyous
Bye.
Maronites and Mennonites tomorrow. Thank you. God bless you all. Thank you so much.